Hello and welcome to the Malika Writes channel. My name is Malika Writes and today I will be talking about 10 YA fiction books that I actually like. So in the last video I kind of went on a sort of rant about YA fiction books and how I didn't really like them, but in this video I'm going to be a bit more balanced and I'm going to give you 10 YA fiction books that I actually enjoyed. No, so these are not the all of the YA fiction books that I've enjoyed. I've obviously enjoyed a lot more in the past. My experience with YA fiction has not been terrible, but I can say that I've experienced some really bad ones that have become so popular that it's made me question the direction of the genre. So that's kind of the reason why I have a problem with YA fiction. It's apart from the problematic tropes and the just the general let's be honest, there's a lack of concern when it comes to the quality of writing in most YA fiction. You can get away with writing things that if you were writing for any other genre, if you're writing for literary fiction for example, you would just not be able to get away with. So that's part of the reason why YA fiction and I have this very turbulent relationship. But apart from that, I've had some good experiences with YA fiction and today I'm just going to share 10 of those. So without further ado, let's get into these books. So I'm going to try my best not to give any spoilers. So the first book, and I'm looking down at my phone just so I can get the names right, the names of the authors right. So the first book I'm going to be sharing with you that I really liked is Catcher in the Rye by J.B. Salinger. So I really enjoyed this book. It's obviously one of the classics, so it goes first. But I really enjoyed this. Is it big enough to be considered a novel? No, it's kind of a novelette, but I really enjoyed this book. I think it was shocking, not just for its time, but also in its ability to really bring home the experience of being young and sort of trying to strike up for yourself. I think it did that really well and really drew attention to I don't want to frame this as a problem with youth, but it really showcased a certain mentality that you tend to find in young people that can lead to sort of reckless action, and it was really entertaining to read and you really rooted for the character even though you were frustrated with him. Even as a young person, I remember reading the book for the first time, I was frustrated with the character, but I rooted for him as well. So the second book is Eragon by Christopher Paolini, and I really enjoyed this book. I have a special love for fantasy, so this book was really a good read for me. I know that the movie didn't do as well, but please, if you watch the movie, don't judge the books based on the movie. The movie just did not do it justice. I feel like the movie tried to cram a lot, and the books are massive. I've got one up on the shelf here, but I'll show that later. One of the books, I have the series scattered along my shelves because this isn't the only shelf, there's one in the distance. But so I've got books scattered everywhere and I've got the series up on the shelf, but one of the books is actually quite close. Where is it? Oh, it's too far away to reach, but they are quite sizable books basically. They're not too far off a Ken Follett book, and if you know who that is, you know that his books are quite big. So they tried in the movie to really cram a lot into this short space of time and it didn't work. But the series itself is really interesting and it was one of the YA fiction books that I really loved. So the third is Pirates by Celia Rees. This book was a great read. I really enjoyed reading the characters. You know, it was I think I read this after reading a particularly terrible book. So this was better to me. It really stood out and it gave me faith again in the YA fiction category. It was an interesting read. It followed these two girls and their lives. You know, it's a historical fiction. So it was really interesting to me, and obviously pirates. What's not to love about pirates? So the fourth book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is a classic in the dark academia fields. If you haven't read this book, you haven't almost passed the test to be a dark academic, basically. You know, so this book was really interesting. I really loved the dynamic. It was brilliantly written. So I think it's one of the gems in this genre. It doesn't necessarily have to be YA fiction. I know that some people would argue that it's not really YA fiction, but because of the characters, their ages, and sort of the subject matter that it deals with, I think it could fit comfortably in YA fiction, even though it definitely appeals to an older audience. The fifth, oh, I absolutely love this book. This book made me laugh. It didn't make me cry, but because I'm just not an easy sort of crying person. I don't find it that easy to cry, but this book nearly got me there. Nearly. It was hilarious and really heartfelt and stupid and really intelligent in certain places. You'll know when you read it. If you read nothing else on this list, read this one. Just a sort of heads up, it's a modern adaptation of Don Quixote, which is a classic that is just based on humour. It's tomfoolery, but it really hits home. And this book, I haven't even said the name, but this book is called The Last Summer of the Death Warriors by Francisco X. Stork. This is a brilliant book. Read this one. So the sixth one, another brilliant, you know, just read everything on this list because they're all amazing books. Scatterheart by Lily Wilkinson. I loved this book for so long. It's unreal. I loved this book I still love this book. There's actually a tragic story. I lost this book. Yes, I know. It's the real tragedy. I lost the book, have not been able to find it. I've torn my shelves down and still have not been able to find it. I can't remember if I borrowed it out to someone or just left it on a train. That would even be the worst if I left it on a train. But yeah, I haven't been able to find this, but it's a brilliant book. I loved the characterization. The character arc was so satisfying. It's a brilliant book. Just read it. Take my word for it. So, seventh, Buffalo Soldier by Tanya Landman. I really do like Tanya Landman. I think her writing style is simplistic but really impactful. She is a writer who is not afraid to write outside of her culture, and she does it well. She's one of those writers, who really does her characters justice, and I really loved Buffalo Soldier. It was an impactful story. It was really heartfelt and touching, and I just couldn't get enough of the story. It was one of those that it gave me faith in the entire genre. It was such a good book. Really read this book. Tanya Landman is a brilliant writer. So the eighth is A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I don't think anybody has not heard of this series. I mean, there's been a movie with Jim Carrey and there's been a whole series on Netflix. So I think everyone knows this series. But read the books. The series on Netflix alone is not enough. Read the books. The books are brilliant. I personally felt the same way that I felt when I was reading The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. The experience was the same because the writer was so present with you. I know some people have a problem with this. Some people really don't like it when the writer is sort of a present figure as they're reading, but I love it. It's like sitting next to somebody and they're telling you a story. There's such a comforting feeling about that. And I loved this series. I think you will too. If you enjoyed the Netflix series, you'll enjoy the books more. So the 9th. This book is, it's not pretentious. It knows it's not the best book in the world, and that's part of its charm. You know, it knows that it's a typical YA fiction where things that don't make sense happen in order for the characters to just get together, but it's just so unpretentious that you can't help but just like it. And this is Are These My Basumas I See Before Me by Louise Renneson. This book was hilarious to me. Just the jokes in the book were funny, but it was the fact that the book was just not pretentious. It knew what it was, and it was proud of what it was, and it stood by it, and I enjoyed it for that. So the 10th and final one on this list is another series, The Ranger's Apprentice by John Flanagan. I still love this series. I think it's like a gateway book for young people. I remember my mum bought me she bought me the first 2 books for Christmas when I was, how old was I? I was 12 when she bought me the first 2 books, because I remember that year I also got The Prisoner of Azkaban, my own copy, not a borrowed copy, because I read most of the books borrowed, but I got my own copy that year. And I think I read it in 2 days. I think I read, because I got a book that it had like 2 books in one, so I read it in 2 days. I was fixated, honestly. It's so captivating. Characters are well written. You know, the character arcs, they take their time. There's nothing worse than a character arc that is rushed, and that's one of the problems with YA fictions, that the character arcs they just seem rushed, or they just rush to a satisfying end, or they just tie things up in a way that you're like, you just did this because you liked this character, or you knew that the audience would like this character, so you just redeemed them for no reason. It's like reading bad fan fiction. But the irking part, or the irksome part, is the fact that you paid for the fan fiction. That's the bit about YA fiction that really annoys me. I can get fan fiction for free. I don't need to pay for it as well. But this book, The Ranger's Apprentice, I loved it. It's another historical one. There are a lot of historical fiction novels here, but I just have a thing for historical stuff, I guess. So The Ranger's Apprentice, another historical one. It's really great. I enjoyed this thoroughly. You know, I bugged my mum for the rest of the series. That was how much I loved it. So that's the end of this list. I hope you guys take a look at everything on this list, because I can personally vouch for every single book on this list. You know, they were all great in their own way. They were all brilliant reads. So I hope that you take a look at them. And yeah, that's the end of this video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you subscribe, comment, tell me more books, more YA fiction books that you think will change my mind about the genre. You know, tell me more that you think will really give me a new perspective. So let me know in the comment section. I would be very interested in hearing what you guys have to say, as I always am. So yes, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a lovely evening, because I'm filming this at the evening, but I hope you have a lovely day.